Welcome. This presentation is about nature-based solutions for infrastructure resilience. This is part of the biannual report of CDRI. My name is Floris Boogaard. I work at Deltares, an independent research institute that does a lot of work on disaster resilience around the world. I'm also a professor in Groningen in applied science. And applied science is what I will present to you to make the report more readable with a lot of case studies, examples, and make you interested to act upon the resilience in your specific situation. So the scope of this presentation, which is about 30 minutes, is about infrastructure and the hazards and the goal, and also for you as an audience to understand how we can go through the report and read all the enablers or the levers or the maladaptation. So a lot of different topics will come to mind. So nature-based solutions for infrastructure resilience is quite important, of course, for you in your situation, because we should get introduction in the resilience cycle framework, for example, nature-based types and definitions, so that we know that we speak the same language. The nature-based infrastructure for resilience, we show a lot of examples for you as well. We will go through the challenges in the solutions, because it's not always that simple that you just implement them. You should also maintain them and do it together. So it's a lot about governance and institutions. And so scaling up nature-based solutions, pilots for practice. I will show you a lot of pilots, and of course end this presentation with a roadmap. A roadmap that will give you some questions to see if you are ready as an organization to implement nature-based solutions for the long term, so also the maintenance, and give you specific tools and case studies for this. So some of the key messages that we will highlight in this presentation, also the report, of course, and we really hope that you enjoy that part, the summary, but also the extensive report about it. It really goes about the cost and the implementations of nature-based solutions, and also providing the co-benefits. What are the co-benefits? Also the challenges that you work in a multidisciplinary environment. So there are people that are more for green, for gray or blue, and they have to work together. Sometimes about maintenance, sometimes about policy. So we really have to work together to get enabling of nature-based solutions. It's multiple scales, multiple time. It's about different principles. Cross-sector integration, skill and patience sometimes. We'll show you some examples of that. It's different than with gray infrastructure. Sometimes we really have to be patient that the ecology or the green will really evolve in resilience of your infrastructure in this case. Collaboration, so a lot about governance, and I should just note that governance is also a different report, of course. Finance is a different report, so there's a lot to read about. So we have 5 strategic levers. So that's institutional, policy and governance, also a chapter, financial, also a chapter. It's about capacity. I will talk about interdisciplinary teams for nature-based solutions, and also the technical part, showing the evidence. A lot of case studies, as you see here in the screen. So a lot of pictures are, enable you to see what kind of solutions or case studies you can have. Because NbS are not optional, they turn river slopes, coast and urban landscapes into active partners for resilient multifunctional infrastructure. So starting with why NbS, so it's a lot about the different definitions, so green to gray, but also hybrid. It's about enabling policy and governance, institutional requirements, financial cost benefits and community engagement. So why does it matter, the resilience? Well, we have threats as heat or sea level rise. We have an increasing frequency of high intensity events, and then we mean drought. Long dry periods can damaging for infrastructure. For example, also cultural heritage, which is wooden poles that have lower groundwater tables and go to rot. So also heat. We have higher temperatures for longer periods. We have more intensive rainfall, so leading to floodings in our urban environment and also infrastructure. But that's not all the case. It's not only about climate adaptation, it's also about urbanization. We build more, we have more pavement, water will have a different water balance. It doesn't go in the ground anymore because there's pavement. So that also induces flooding. Then, NbS as a core infrastructure. It's good to know that the majority of the 2050 infrastructure is yet to be built. So that's also an opportunity. A window for embedding hybrid thinking is now, as you see on the slide. So we will have hybrid system for resilience, broader functional value, knowledge gaps, bottom line. Those are aspects that we will brush upon in this short presentation. So this is the resilience cycle framework. Also a different chapter that you can read about more in detail, but the key element of this is that we have a stronger capacity to absorb. If we have a stronger capacity to respond and a stronger capacity to recover, we have a dividend. And we want to reach that dividend so we do things so smoothly to get to resilience at a lower cost, but also nature-based. And that's basically the basis of this report, and that's why it starts with that. But therefore, we need an understanding of nature-based solutions. And an understanding means that we speak the same language, that we have definitions as gray, blue, green, hybrid, a lot of different names that are being used, also for nature-based solutions. Sometimes we talk about water-sensitive urban design, or sustainable urban drainage systems, or low-impact design. There are a lot of names that might have the same meaning, but they actually are different. So nature-based solutions, to have a common understanding, is an umbrella concept. And it reads that actions that protect, restore and manage ecosystems to address societal challenges while benefiting people and nature. So that's the key element in this case for infrastructure. And then you have gray infrastructure, so we talk about concrete or steel, and which is more or less the conventional engineered assets that we name it up on. And then we change more to greener, resilient solutions. So green solutions are mostly land-based, ecological interventions. They absorb shocks, they regenerate and provide biodiversity and social co-benefits. Blue solutions are more water-centric systems, so oceans or rivers, estuaries. So they reduce the wave energy and buffer climate impacts, coastal floodings, for example. And hybrid is mostly a combined engineered system and natural systems. And of course, these definitions are quite a strict definition, but you can also maybe think of things that might be in between. As a hybrid solution, floating green islands, for example, that reduce shocks. So that's maybe a green, but also a blue solution could be a hybrid solution. So different names for maybe the same, but it's good to, before you start a project, speak the same language and go over these definitions with your partners and see if you actually speak the same language. Because it's a quite strict border that you have gray solutions, as you can see in this picture here. So that could be levees or flood walls. And in the picture, it slowly goes to more greener options, like planting trees for shadow, beating heat stress. And there's a lot in between that are called nature-based solutions, maybe even permeable pavement, for example. But there are 4 types of permeable pavement. Some are just letting the water through 2 stones, but some are grass-filled pavers, and grass, that's the nature part. And of course, the infiltration of water into the ground, that's nature-based. So it's mimicking nature processes, as you will. So these definitions are essential for infrastructure agency to start with the whole progress, because it's also about standardization. It's about governance, it's about financing, policy and practice. So we have to put up these definitions in our protocols, in our guidelines, which we will brush upon later even more. So the opportunities for resilience, I think they go very vivid and visual in case studies. So we selected a lot of case studies, over 100 actually, for this report. In the report there are more the key case studies, I would say, that show different disasters and different solutions that you can learn from or get inspiration from. So it's building capacity to absorb using NbS, strengthening capacity to respond to the disaster using NbS, and strengthening capacity to recover from disasters using NbS. And that's all around the case studies, and some I will highlight in this presentation, but go to report and read more, I would say. So sometimes they're not that complex, as you can see on this picture. This is a green facade, not a green wall, but a green facade protecting infrastructure, for example, from heat in this case, making lower temperatures. So that would be tapping into the urban climate and buffers, urban cooling, trees and roofs and walls, permeable landscapes, for example. And if we go to coastal cities, it's more about water and coastal protection. So there will be wetlands, or it could be mangroves or dunes that you use as natural aspects in the element to protect ourselves. And as I said, a lot of case studies, mostly in the global south. So that's the Sundarbans in India, Hong Kong, Paris, West Africa, Pakistan, Minnesota, Singapore. And again, it's about bioengineering. It's about very different locations, so coastal and also inland, where you can learn from. And I really highlight that there are also persons that you can contact to see if those solutions would match your situation, I would say. So strengthen the emergency response capacity. That's about mapping ecosystem as emergency assets, for example. It's much easier to conserve your natural assets than to break it down and try to imitate them. Like mangroves, they cost decades to grow and to get to the mature state that we need to protect our coast, for example. Also, it's important to have the ecological indicators as real-time intelligence, embedded NbS into response protocols, and of course it should be community-led. And there are different aspects of that. We'll not go because of time constraints to this, but there are also some case studies that are specifically targeted to that. For example, the ecosystem stewardship to infrastructure services in Vietnam. So to strengthen post-disaster recovery, it's more about ecological restoration to recover the infrastructure, or rapid financing, because you need, in limited time, you need budget to recover it, for example. Diversified climate resilient planting, debris management. There's a lot of debris during these kind of disasters, and of course using post-disaster analyze to guide NbS development. So different aspects that are really important. And about the cost, I highlighted in the last slide as well, there are different cost profiles. Grey infrastructure is different from NbS. Grey infrastructure might be high upfront, and maybe NbS could be lower, especially if you have existing ecosystems. So you can see the graphs here with different scales, and of course every different location might be different, but note that it requires, for example, with NbS, that's also different, it requires maintenance of natural elements. The invasive removal or monitoring or fertilizing, that's totally different than grey infrastructure. But don't forget, the grey infrastructure needs a lot of monitoring and also maintenance as well. So why these cost variation matter? There are large differences. NbS, as been said, it's an umbrella aspect. There are over 100 different NbS systems. So also a large variation of cost. I already mentioned maybe permeable pavement as nature-based solutions, 4 types, totally different cost. So that's why you see on this sheet also a high variation of the cost ranges. Mangroves might be a few hundred. There's the cost range of $10 per square meter to 200 for very small different systems. And of course on islands, it's also different to import materials, so that's why there's a lot of different cost ranges, so to say. It's about a lot of indirect cost as well, so we need expertise that is not always available, so that's why we help out with these presentations also to do capacity building, raising awareness about different things. But mostly with nature-based solutions, instead of grey infrastructure, you might have ecological expertise needed. Community agreements and land opportunity cost. So if it's existing, it's totally different than implemented in the urban dense area, for example. So cost differences in the report, there's a breakdown of a lot of these NbS and show you the ranges that you could use. It's about cost, but mostly to get excited about NbS is about the benefits. How to adapt. And here you can see for a lot of NbS different benefits. And those benefits are very hard to put in numbers, so to say, or dollars to be very specific. So you have indirect benefits, you have of course the urban implementation, so also why do we do the NbS and is it efficient, and the flexibility under the climate change. So these are highlights in the report that you can read more, and you see a very large table with yeses and no and maybe, and of course it's different in every situation, but you can use this to get a view on what is your problem, what is your solution, what kind of benefits would you like to get out of it. So now we're going to barriers and challenges to scaling, upscaling NbS for different situations. So there are some key elements that we want to brush upon. So there are time consideration, time depending, maladaptation. Sometimes you have effects that you didn't want to or didn't see it coming. So also the maintenance and stewardship is very important to highlight here. So scale and time. Time matters, scale matters. Also, there are a lot of challenges. You can see on the picture that in the beginning, if you do biofiltration, starts very slowly with vegetation, and you have a different system after years. Sometimes with mangroves, it might cost decades. So the NbS performance is not linear time, it grows over time. Current system prioritize immediate results, creating structural barriers to scale, as been here. So what is important is to know these time matters, and also the efficiency is not the same in year 1 than year 10. It's about long-term monitoring if we talk about the benefits. It's about adaptive management, also multi-sector, and benefits evolve in time, mostly, of course. But also can go negatively, so maladaptation, but I will speak to that a bit later. So it's really different in different sites, of course. That's why we have a lot of case studies we highlight in this report and also this presentation, and also a lot of challenges. And we try to see the lessons learned from different case studies into these challenges. So that could be pilot traps, short-term funding, of course, so it's financial, also technical. And of course, data gaps is very important. And we end this presentation with a roadmap to see what kind of data gaps you have and where to find that data for your case. I mentioned maladaptation, but what actually is it? It's adaptation measures producing negative outcomes. So examples is biofiltration, as we've seen just now. The rainwater is not clean that you infiltrate, so you might pollute groundwater and also the soil. And the question is how much time does it cost? And that's a part of the maintenance, why that is so important. So implementations could also blocking other elements, as in the dune planting, for example, here as well. So there's a lot of things that you have to think about, and that's why you can learn from other situations, and the case studies are very important. And it depends if you're coastal or you may be in the mountain area or more in the floodplain. So that's why we did different categories to do so. So monitoring, I mentioned already, monitoring to evaluate if these nature-based solutions are working. So in this short video, you see on the left side, you see a bioswale. So basically infiltrating water in grass fields. You can see a tank truck do the trick. Also on the right, that's permeable pavement. You see that the water is not actually infiltrating. Also, that's a result. So maybe in your situation, that's not a good NbS for upscaling. And maybe on the left, it's more nature-based. It's a bioswale. If the water will actually infiltrate with any nuisance to the community which is around it, that might be your choice. So monitoring, participative monitoring, education, raising awareness, and also capacity building, doing the research, get the numbers straight, raising awareness, capacity building are very important to do monitoring and evaluate what kind of nature-based solutions are right for your situation. So that's key, I think, in avoiding the maladaptation. And from this monitoring that I showed, you can make protocols. What does work, what doesn't work, what did we learn, what are the key elements, and what is the key challenges. You can merge that into decision support tools, for example. You could do focused monitoring, so seeing in what kind of priority areas you put NbS and does it work for that specific situation or your specific challenge. That could be maybe low permeable soil or even bedrock or high groundwater tables. That should be an early detection of what kind of challenges you have. Again, build cross-sector expertise. That monitoring is not only about the hydraulics, it's also about environmental monitoring. So where do pollutants go, for example, and also, of course, nature-based. So it's about ecology as well. So learn from lessons and the experiences, I would say. So maintenance, of course, is key. Also the stewardship, you can see that the community should be getting involved, ecological experts should be involved, the interaction between all these different sectors and also disciplines. Sometimes we are very excited about implementing nature-based solutions and having the design and the implementation itself, but we didn't put any budgets to the maintenance, which of course is key for long-term functionality of these systems. So debris, well, you see some pictures here in Cebu, the Philippines, for example, where there's a solution for actually debris management that can clog your systems quite easily and have a nuisance for your hydraulic capacity, so to say. So public-private partnerships, the collaboration that I talked about, and also the different disciplines, you might need a partnership between private and public, and also education, and a quadruple helix, if you allow me. So what is it? It's a long-term contract. It's a long-term cooperation, I would say, between different partnerships that can have a lot of different points, but of course key is that you work together. Some examples in the report, it's Netherlands 2120, for example, is a large corporation that we use here in the Netherlands. Also some examples from the USA I mentioned, and the key benefits of this is the cost efficiency, of course, because you do it together. There's a risk management because there are probably different disciplines involved. You can have an accelerated delivery of infrastructure, so you go faster basically. So it's cost effective, I would say. And also it integrates the different disciplines that I already mentioned. So ecological, also social, economic co-benefits. So we talk about institutional alignment, which is basically derived from that as well. We should work together, especially for the different challenges that we have. So it's about organizational capacity, it's about strategic integration, it's about rules and financial flexibility, for example, and the partnerships that I already mentioned. I mean, it enables joint financing, for example, and you're not alone. So there's a higher chance that you actually implement maintain your NbS more effectively with partners inside on institutional level. And there, of course, because that's a difficult part, that's why there's different chapters also on the finance and governance. And here are some tools that you could use for institutional alignment. So this could be infrastructure pathways as being with links that you can, if you are interested, you can look further. There are guidelines for implementing. There's also federal permitting for environmental reviews of nature-based solutions. So there's a lot that you actually could do. It's in your hands, as this picture in Vietnam shows you, the infrastructure in your hands. So policy and governance enablers, that's mostly about the effective policy and governance turn into NbS from pilots into mainstream infrastructure practice. So in the report, we go more in depth on the policy integration, the participation, the governance, and the cross-sector coordination. So if you really see this as a challenge or in your situation, it will be great to go in more depth in the report on these aspects. So the technical enablers are mostly about design guidelines, about modeling tools and simulations, monitoring, adaptive management, alignment tools with the policy regulation. So a lot of key points there. Lessons learned from the case studies, as I mentioned before. It really depends on your situation, which kind of quantifying flood reduction you need, for example. So that's more about the modeling, but also about the management. That could be about monitoring, strengthening of evidence. So there are different aspects that we name here, and they will also return in the roadmap that I will end this presentation with. Just to highlight maybe some tools that you could use. So if you are in your mind have several NbS that you want to implement in, for example, the urban dense area of your city. That could be a coastal city or inland, that doesn't matter. You can actually have tools that, open source tools, so you can use it always, that you draw your NbS in, just a polygon on the cubic meters, for example. And then the models help you identify how much storage volume that would be, or how much water would actually infiltrate. Give you an indication of cost, but also the co-benefits. So how much heat stress mitigation will take place. So that's, if you like, that could be the climate resilient city toolbox. As you can see on the picture as well, you can have different implementations and you can put them on and off. So also seeing if you're within the budget that you have. Or do you have enough storage? So you can basically play around with different solutions anywhere in the world. You can draw it in and get more information on your decisions to implement it. This is just a more simple example showing results, and you can see the cost and also things about water quality, linking into the maladaptation that I showed before, and also key elements. So water infiltration, of course, on NbS. So minimizing drought, also EFA transpiration, that's more about heat. If you have storage capacity, that's more about urban floodings, preventing urban floodings, of course. So there's a lot to do that you can draw in your specific situation. So a lot of tools in the report. It's quite extensive. Over 100 tools that we gathered. We made a selection for you. So again, as the case studies, about different disasters, about different applications to see if it fits your situation. And these tools, so frameworks, guidance, databases, catalogs might help you to get your specific NbS or the information about the NbS that you want to implement and of course also maintain. So a lot of tools, a lot of links. So for further reading, you can do a lot, I would say. Financing instruments. Basically making NbS bankable and scalable. There are smart finance that turn NbS from cost centers into resilient, value-generating infrastructure assets. And again, financing is a separate report as well. So you can learn about the cost-benefit tools, the long-term value of it, the blended finance, performance-based contracts. So quantifying a lot of elements in this, and procurement, for example. So I'm not going to go in detail, but these are the key elements that you can use for that. And of course, tools. Again, financing tools, handbooks, guidelines, blueprints, maps that you can use for getting more information about the finance, the budgets that you need, and also how to go around to cost effectively implement nature-based solutions, I would say. So technical, finance, institutional, it's key. Also the capacity development and skills, building the human foundation for NbS. And that's quite key, because without that you cannot actually implement NbS or maintain. So this is about collaboration between different disciplines. Also the policy and the maintenance again. So it's having capacity in your institution that actually know what is an NbS, what does it do, what is the maybe key elements to choose for NbS instead of gray, or should we go hybrid? It's also about speaking the same language where we started this presentation. So definition, of course, matter. So train decision makers, but also the people from maintenance is very key to know what it's actually about and how to move on, upscaling nature-based solutions. This is another tool. It's climatescan.org. It hosts already 22,000 nature-based solution projects around the world, shared by a lot of people as you, thinking about NbS or already implementing NbS or having experience with research on NbS. You can see it's around the world. Some cities are more presented, I would say. So you see maybe a dot at New Orleans. Not surprising, after Katrina there was a lot of lessons learned. Almost 2,000 people died. So after disasters, quick recovery of the infrastructure, a lot of lessons learned, implementations. But also Africa, we'll brush on that later, or Europe. So you can get very specific examples. And what is nice is that also you can share your examples. It's open source. It's about participation. It's about sharing your knowledge, and we would love to see your projects there so we can maybe put it in the next report of the CDRI and share your lessons learned. Because as I said, every location is different. If you go to Nepal, it's more about surface water. They have these large ponds, for example, already ages, and they work quite well. It's, you could say, nature-based solutions, of course, and they're huge. They have a drought. It's about the floodings, of course. It's also about the heat, but it's also about recreation. It's also about communities. It's about social value. So these are key NbS that matter for this specific location. So if you want to see more, go to the specific location and you can see all around pictures, videos, links in different languages as well to learn from these situations. So we talked about tools and levers. You could see that there were institutional levers. You have governance and collaboration. You have technical enablers, finance strategies and capacities for building. So a lot of levers and tools that actually matter to see how you can come from a situation where you are now to a situation you want to be to enable nature-based solutions. Case studies, one of a big case studies from the Netherlands is, for example, Room for the River. It's actually not a single project. It's several projects around actually the Netherlands in this case, involving a lot of public and private partnerships, as we mentioned before. There's a lot of money spent to actually get the river more room, basically, to stop the floodings that occurred, especially in 1993 and 1995, with a lot of people that had to move their houses in this case. So this might reflect to your situation as well. Room for a River is more or less a concept also being used in the Global South a lot, because we strengthen the river into a curse line, I would say, and we have to give it more room and live maybe as in the old ways that we move with the river instead of fixed boundaries that, of course, if you fix it, you can have a lot of problems with flooding, as occurs in a lot of countries. So I showed Nepal, I showed a lot of different case studies already. You can see here in the distribution of nature-based solutions that every city has their own DNA. You can choose from so many nature-based solutions that could be small scale to big scale at the coast, for example. So that's more about the wetlands or the dunes or the mangroves. And if we go in inner city, it's more about the permeable pavement or the biofiltration or water squares or other heat measures, for example. So what is nice to see in your specific situation, what is key. So Johannesburg or Cape Town in South Africa, they have severe drought. It's day zero. I will show you that DNA. And you can see here that Copenhagen, after the floods, for example, they had a rainfall event of 150 millimeters in 2 hours. The whole basically center was flooded. They have different focus. That's flooding, and Cape Town, for example, or South Africa is more to drought. So that means that if you are in a drought situation, you can learn from Johannesburg and Cape Town in South Africa. If you are more about flooding, you can maybe use the Copenhagen example. If you have river floodings, you could do the Room for the River. So in this case, you can have your case study tailor-made for your situation. So this is the DNA highlighted. What you can see from this is that the large pieces of the pie are actually about water demand management and also about rainwater harvesting. Not surprising, after day 0 there was no water anymore. So they have to be restrictive of the water demand in this region. And also islands in the Philippines or other locations where salt water comes up because the sea level is rising and you have a lot of pumping of groundwater. You get salt water in, then you need fresh water, and you have a problem like South Africa as well, but in a different situation. Then still it's about water demand, it's about rainwater harvesting. These are the nature-based solutions you have to choose. And so keep the water, infiltrate the water into deeper with biofiltration or retention or detention ponds. So a lot to learn. So that's how you get case studies for your situation. And now we come to the end. This is the institutional roadmap. So basically, we don't know specifically where you are in this whole road to resilience of your infrastructure. So to creating the enabling of environment for NbS, there's a lot of steps that you have to go through in this roadmap. So it's about, is your institution ready? Are you ready for the pilot scales? Or do you already have pilot scales that you have to evaluate to decide if you want to go further? There's a focus that could be on the technical side, but also, of course, on the policy or the governance, or there are a lot of things to choose from. And what is your unique selling point or your DNA? Is that more about nature, ecology? Is that more technical? You have to work together in this. So guiding questions for agencies like you work probably in an agency or part of a city or a water framework, so to say. So do I have enough data and tools? And if not, we showed you some data and tools and case studies. Are your policies and investment frameworks supportive of NbS? If not, we showed you some tools to use that. Do you have interdisciplinary skills and champions of change that maybe can sell, so to say, the NbS for you to show the co-benefits matter that we discussed, and also prevent the maladaptation that we talked about? So adaptive management is, can embed the institutional culture for upscaling NbS. 4 pillars are quite important for this institutional readiness. That could be strategic regulatory alignment, the decision making and governance, the institutional and technical capacity, monitoring, evaluation, adaptive management. So these key elements, and they also, you see some boxes underneath, you can see where you are or what you need and see what kind of tools and case studies you can use to move forward with the implementation of NbS. So we made some checklists that makes it maybe easier with some high-level questions for infrastructure agencies. So it's like a self-assessment. You can see if you have alignment with strategic and rules, so to say. If you have decision-making and governance, if that's all right in your specific situation. Institutional and technical capacity. Are you able to do monitoring and evaluation and adaptive management? And how is it with finance and partnerships? Can you get the budgets in to upscale your nature-based solutions, so to say? So we come to conclusions. I think we showed you a road from zero, talking about definitions, speaking the same language, to all those tools that you maybe need for implementing the nature-based solutions. So let's talk about reality check. NbS, as you can see, it's not the silver bullet. Actually, it's more about hybrid systems than nature-based systems. So don't move from gray to nature-based solutions. There's a pathway, there's in between. So choose your specific definition, your type, evaluate, do the monitoring, prevent maladaptation. I think we showed that NbS matter. That you can use that. Several case studies prove that also around the world. And of course, they will enable adaptive multifunctional solution across ecology, social and economic dimensions. So basically multifunctional implementation. Institution readiness is key. Also a lot of documents about that you can have further reading. And of course, this is a call to action. It's choosing resilience. It's integrating nature into every infrastructure decision. It's more cost effective that if you open a road to see if you can change that road, maybe in a hollow road that stores water, or maybe gully-free road that have no flooding of the drainage system. So that could be at the same cost and price and with more benefits. So, and also accept imperfection is not failure, inaction can be. So that's the key of this document. I end with some key messages from the report in different sections. Why NbS, enabling the policy and governance, also another report. Institutional requirements, financing, cost and benefits, community engagement. So you can choose where you are or want to have more information about and do further reading. And I just want to highlight this for a specific project, or you can go to this roadmap. But most of all, me and my team for Deltares, thank you for your attention. We really hope that the report, the biannual report as a whole, but also this chapter specific on resilience of infrastructure for nature-based solution, is very helpful for your situation. If it's not, if you're missing something, please let us know, because there will be follow-up reports and we can import basically your challenges, but also your solutions for the future and help others to enable this growing resilience with nature-based solutions for infrastructure. Thank you so much and hope to see you again.